dafa baax na ki dafa neex ki dafa rafet wan ma ci ki bonjul ki dafa bonjul wan ña deke sa way ki dafa bonjul wan ma ci ki bonjul ki dafa bonjul daf leen rafet yow wen tamit ndax nga màgget daf leen rafet yow wen tamit ndax nga rafet daf leen rafet yow wen tamit ndax nga rafet. Did you know that's a richer Africa? Did you know that's a richer Africa? Did you know said the whole world love it? Did you know said the whole world love it? Be proud of your culture. Be proud of that what you got. Be proud.
Jambo, vipi, karibuni katika kipindi cha Doc Iman Blak. Kipindi chaitwa Metamorphosis. Jifundishe, elimika na mwelimike.
Who the hell do they think I am? Give me food from the pot bottom. Give me scrap from them table. I'm on a desperate or disabled. In this land we live a dog eat dog. I said the whole of them are going like hog. A simple thing we make we jump and back. I grab a licious like a harbor shack. Cry blood, I've got to cry blood. Cry blood, I've got to cry blood. For my people, yeah. Cry blood, I've got to cry blood. Cry blood, I've got to cry blood. Hey, hey. There's just one thing I don't overstand. What make we laugh and kill with one black man? Me say me share me happy run and hide. I call it self-inflicted genocide. We step aside and have to weep and moan. The pressure building up inside my bones. Oh, I'm and back against the wall. I put my head up on cry blood. I've got to cry blood. I cry blood. I've got to cry blood. For my people, yeah. Cry blood. I've got to cry blood. Cry blood. I've got to cry blood. For my people, yeah. My people. For my people, yeah. My people. For my people, yeah. Now I think about a shanty eye. In a dispute that says I don't know why. Be careful of the flag now. And put the lion on its back now. This a plan is to divide and rule. In the end, we the people lose. So many mothers try to put things right. But no, I won't give up the fight. Cry blood. I've got to cry blood. Cry blood. I've got to cry blood. For my people, yeah. Cry blood. I've got to cry blood. Cry blood. I've got to cry blood. For my people, yeah. My people. For my people, yeah. My people. For my people, yeah. When we gonna wake up? Yes, we need a shake up. Let us kiss and make up, or bear witness to this breakup. The whole world's taking advantage. Wanna stand aside and look. Just prophesize we rise again. Just take a second look. Cry, cry blood, yeah. Cry blood, cry blood, cry blood.
Now greetings to the world. Vice of the one big gangzilla alongside Skrillex. Them for no. Ooh-wee. Ow.
Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis.
Turn up the bass and make them all have fun. How we ablaze the fire, make it fun. Them we mash up the place, turn up the bass and make some sound. Boy run, and we will end your week just like a Sunday. We mash up the place, turn up the bass and make them all have fun. Skrillex ablaze the fire, make it fun. Then we mash up the place, turn up the bass. boy run. And we will end your week just like a Sunday. If I'm not pose, but if I'm suppose, them two your clothes, them wouldn't suppose. They killing the flows, the sicker than most. They fit in the foes, no weather the most. They never yet fault and never yet flop. Never yet halt and never yet stop. Keep up with God and never yet drop. All them a talk and all them a chat. Spillix and gang, the legend lives on. We give them it hard, we give them it strong. We give them it rough, we give them it long. We give them it right and never yet wrong. Sweeter the victory, the hotter the buckle. The bigger the club, the fatter the buckle. The best of the rockle, I might have a knuckle. It's
Road with this, much of the place.
We must up the place, turn up the bass and make them all have fun. How we ablaze the fire, make it fun. Them we must up the place, turn up the bass and make some sound. Boy run, and we will end your week just like a Sunday. We must up the place, turn up the bass and make them all have fun. Skrillex ablaze the fire, make it fun. Them we must up the place, turn up the bass and make some sound. Boy run, and we will end your week just like a Sunday.
The ocean. The ocean is deep and vast. The mind is deep and vast. Metamorphosis. Styles FM. Dr. Iman Blak, your host.
You can have anything that you like. Ooh, yeah. Alright then. You can have anything. Everyone I say look, say look. Oh Lord. Ooh, yeah. Look how them I sell out, sell out. Oh, oh, oh. I see no reason to laugh. They be making promises, but all they're doing is talk. I say, with the right connections, you can have anything that you like. Ooh, yeah. Alright then. You can have anything. Everyone I say look, say look. Oh Lord. Ooh, yeah. Look how they must sell out, sell out. Oh, oh, oh. Hey. Turn your backs on your neighbor in moments of need. Lord, you put your personal favor and your economic greed before the needs of the nation that you have pledged to serve and uphold. Cause they don't have to answer. They're the ones who wrote the laws. Misappropriation of public funds for your fancy house and cars. Lavish trips you take, while taxpayers tax you break. Oh, the price we pay to live. This is economic sacrilege. Country for sale.
Away from Africa with the intention to steal our culture. The good for the post buy and say, humble yourself, my little one. Humble yourself, my children. Humble yourself. Oh, my brother.
Metamorphosis.
While you're done
Yes, greetings, Tinastilin, healing all ones and ones within the earshot of Styles FM. This is the month wherein brides supposed to appear because they have us coordinated and programmed to behave a certain way every month. This is the month of June. But within the struggle of the black people, within the African movement, it makes no difference. Because we have conditions that we continue to have to face, irrespective of which month it is. Certain things seem to be fixed. But there seems to also be a moment of change. And this change is happening rapidly. And so I really want to explore the nature of the environment that we're in. I want to explore terms like capitalism. What does it mean to be living in a capitalist society? Can you separate capitalism from individualism? Can you separate individualism from greed? I want to explore concepts of exploitation. What does it mean to be exploited? We know in football you exploit space. So it's about taking advantage. So I want to look into the concept of exploitation. I want to look into the concept of colonization. What does it mean when a people are colonized? And is colonization just an economic, or is it also a psychological and a mental condition to be colonized? Because see what's going on around us is a whole heap of things going on while the place is running haywire. And much of the solution to what's going around doesn't come from government and guys with money, or you see everything as a business or a hustle. We have to be talking about self-preservation and resurrection. We have to talk about the upliftment and the removal of the degradation that surround I and I as black people. So the globe is teetering and tottering because it's shifting. Powers are shifting. There's a war on, and I'm calling it World War III. World War III has started, you know. But you see, because them don't tell we are wait for it. Trump kick off World War III officially, you know, with this war that is in the world of the economics and technology. We have to know our war fight now, you know. Why it is not always guns and bombs at first. And I'm saying that the war is on. We are involved in a world war. And the world war is intensifying within the economics and it's spilling right over into the next level, which is the military. So war is everywhere. And war is a business. War is not a moral condition. War is a business. War is about power. So until we begin to get the grips of the knowledge of what it is to be colonized, what it is to be mentally colonized, what is it to be involved in a war that is based upon technology and economics. How do we as a people resolve these kind of confrontation? Because it's the environment that is getting brutal, you know, the environment, and people are responding to the environment because there is an internal mental condition and there's an external mental condition. The internal one, we want to call it mind. The external one is the environmental. So we have to sort out the mental conditions, both those that are in the environs and more critically, the ones that are within. Mental conditions. So we're searching out through exploitation. What is exploitation? And ultimately, we want to touch on what is revolution. What is revolution? What is the history of revolution in the Western world? What is the history of revolution in Africa, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, in ancient Egypt? Because I want to speak of a revolution a little later that took place in ancient Egypt, 2000 BC, 2000 years before the Christian era. A powerful revolution. I want to make mention of the Haitian Revolution with Desailly. And that as black people, we must become familiar and lose the fear of the concept and of the term revolution. So people are fearful through lack of knowledge. But it's an important construction to understand because we have to apply ourselves to make change. So revolutions will be important. And there are those who oppose thinking within the lines of revolution because ultimately we're talking about change. And not from the top down, which is cosmetic, but change from the foundation to the top. Revolutionary. People become disturbed. They become uncomfortable. Because sometimes it's about their personal status being threatened. So I'm going to try and use this program to get into start this reasoning within this month here of June. The notion of war. And to be conscious that we are involved in a highly organized war that is right at the moment economic globally. Because the war between China and the United States is not a little jokey war. The implications and the repercussions are far-reaching. And the war being pushed by the United States with Iran is another serious military situation that has economic implications. So if you think that because we're in Jamaica, in the land of the tourists, that we can just bury our heads in our little phones and feel as though we are safe, we got to wake up. There need to be a serious amount of less party timing and more time for conscious observation and reasoning. How do we deal with the World War III that is on? Metamorphosis. Yeah, greetings, and hail up Tris, depend the program early, and hail up all the ones in our environs, meaning the people in the Bronx, Brooklyn, New York area, I will soon get to the rest of the people in Jersey and the 5 other states of the US of A. For the moment, I want to, before getting into the critical essences of what I want to speak about, I want to just make some very brief remarks on football. Yeah, football. I want to make some brief remarks because I really need an entire program to deal with this. But I want to make mention now of this great game, greatest game. While I was living in America, man, they tell me, said, the only game that exists is football because every other game is an imitation. And of course, people get offended because everybody's game is their game. But this wonderful game, the beautiful game, it's appreciated. It's the most widely played game in the world, and it's now played by women and men. And we're at a stage now where the women's game is at the highest point, which is the World Cup. The Women's World Cup is a parallel to the Men's World Cup, which puts the 32 best nations on display to compete for a whole heap of money and endorsements and thing. So the first thing I really want to utter now is a real congratulations and hopes, all the positive energy for our reggae queens. These women now represent this nation, and it's unusual that we usually become a nation when we speak about sports. It seems to be the only force in this island that brings the concept of a nation together. And within that concept of a nation, we drop the class and the religious and the political divisions. So it shows that it can be dropped. Yeah, it shows that we can go through without these man-made constructions that divide people. And it's always the world of sport that shows the potential and the possibility to break down these man-made walls that divide black people and divide people around the world, wherein the principle of divide and rule comes into play. But this mighty game, as much as it also is a great unifier, it's also a point of friction too. Because it also causes rivalry and division and separation. But within the context of sports, all of that is supposed to be healed up when the sport is over. So it's an interesting arena to examine how people are treated, where justice is displayed and we get a chance to demonstrate your real ability. So our women are at the World Cup. And of course, being at the World Cup is the highest point that you can be visible in the world game. These women got there with 95% of their own effort, and from the man them who courtside, who don't live in Jamaica, who live overseas. But like many of us have this belly string tie to this land. Yes, and this maybe black, green and gold are run through enough of our vein, but we don't talk it that kind of way. So there are a lot of people off the island who have this forever commitment to this place. It's just that the people who run this place keep those people out by them policies here and the fallacies that they promote. So the reggae girls now, the politicians have now jumped aboard. And they now going behind the wagon. You see the first match now? I'm saying that now, reggae girls have a group. And the first match is against a world champion team. Now, we all know that sports is played on the pitch. But sports is also played in the brain of the psychology. And my outlook is that this first match, as much as there's great expectation and hope, my only hope is that we don't get overrun. Because I anticipate that the Brazilian team will win the group. Just this group of 4. And therefore, with that view, I think that they're going to beat everybody in the group. So our first match, my perspective would be that we could hold on the score. We have to play that if we do get the defeat, it's not overwhelming. Because I'm saying the next 2 sides are going to get beaten too. So the real thing will be resolved between we and the next 2 sides. Australia and another team. So we must be patient with the first match and don't be overly critical of the outcome. As long as the girls hold them frame and play good defensive football against a team that is historically where it is. And we should take our chances now with the next 2 teams. So I would not be disappointed if we lose the first match and take that experience now and carry us through the next 2 games to get us into the next round. That is just what I was saying from now. That's about the World Cup. But for the excitement now of man football, the leagues are finally coming to a close, are finally ended. In other words, from last year, July, when the World Cup ended, FIFA's world moved from the World Cup into club football. And so international club football has been taking the spotlight from last year, September. Around the world, because the FIFA have the thing locked under control, They control the rhythm, they control the seasons. So I in Jamaica, we have our local football league. We play, we have a champion in Portmore. But everybody watch the television, and everybody eye is on the EPL. You watch EPL, Cass? See me I say? I never know before, but me figure say nearly every man somewhere in the globe have some eyeball upon the EPL. And to some extent, most man have a team. And when I say man, no, I rule the female them, All right. So this season that just competed in England, maybe it has been the most exciting and the most dramatic race to the tape. And it really hold the attention of the world, and it show what professionalism and soldiering and all the elements that go into preparing a good team to fight war. The English Premier League has demonstrated that it is the most exciting league in the world. And that is simply due to the amount of resources that attract the best players in the world. There's a Spanish league, there's a German league, there's an Italian league, there is a European Championships. And for the first time, perhaps ever, the 4 teams that play the 2 major championships in Europe come from the English Premier League. You know that, Cass? So the Champions League is 2 English teams, and the Europa League is 2 English teams. There are people looking on now who saying, boy, the English League strong, so boy, England side going hard to beat, but it don't really work so. You have to assess how many English players are in these teams that are doing well. And if you count, you don't count many. So it's an international league that is playing at the highest standard in England. But it's not English football we're looking at. And so we don't want to make the error, those who are looking on, to think that England football is at a high standard. The English league. And so the money, the marketing, all things are focused there. And my final point on this, because this is not the essence of the program, is that take note of the presence of the Africans in the English Premier League. Take note of the African presence in the Spanish League. Take note of the African presence in the French leagues. And if you begin to check all those leagues for the African presence, if you remove the African presence from the football in Europe, football would have lost its color.
This can jump so low.
Yeah, metamorphosis now moving into its real essence of discussion and reasoning. You know, the country, the island is presently what they consider to be in a state of, it's not, I don't know if it's mourning I call it, but in a state of, some state we're supposed to be in. But all of this is due now to the passing away, the death of a former prime minister. And the whole island, of course, is sort of, well, the political bureau, directorate rather, and all the agencies of government have been preoccupied now with receiving the body, which they say passed away in Florida. There was a whole activity at the airport yesterday, all kind of military movements and men dressed and thing. No, I can be cynical sometimes, in assessing how the media work, but I find it very stage managed that the birth and the death would be on the same day. I don't know if the person really passed away the day before, and to create a drama, say, well, he passed away on the day of his birth. You say, I don't have no confidence in the media, I have no confidence in those who control this plantation, and I know how to try to create history and legacies and all those things. So the whole big essence now surrounding this thing about dying and burning on the same day and blah blah blah, I don't even go into that. All that can be stage managed. What I'm really looking at now is a response to the passing of this man and how people begin to assess the pros and the cons. And in assessing Siaga's pros and cons, it make me hear and see that the reason in the corner that I go is not really about Siaga personally, but it's this comparison now between Siaga and Manley. And these two gentlemen represent forces that literally, let us say, polarize the country. They have the country going one end and the next one carrying the country in the other end. So the country between these two men have been really split. And so sometimes assessing what them man do, the people them who on one side can't see properly what the next man do, and the same thing the other side. Iman personally, I kind of glad I was not living in Jamaica during the 70s. I kind of escaped the frame of being locked into Jamaica during the 70s. And I don't know if I was unfortunate, but I actually became locked in from the 1980s. So my experience with Siaga at the individual level, very, very practical from 1980 onwards. But I knew of Edward Siaga from the 1960s. I knew of Siaga and his movement in Western Kingston, his association with certain gangster youths. So them time there was Knife Man, Zaki the High Priest, and the gangs, the Vikings, and the Skull Gang, and all them continues to go on in Western Kingston. And maybe who I'm talking to, enough of the people them never born it. But those who know the story and the history of the country know what was happening at that time. So my analysis and my perspective on Edward Siaga is from 1980. In a very serious way, because I begin to live it. And in living that 1980 experience with Edward Siaga, I came into the country at the end of the Michael Manley era, when the socialism policies were obviously failing. And the United States, like they are doing in most places, thought it fit that there should be a regime change. Now, I can talk this way now because the general world public is more conscious of these things, because we see and hear it in the media, and we see it happening in other countries. So there was a desire for regime change by Washington, simply because the Jamaica government at the time were too cozy with the Cuban government. And the Cuban government had come to power through a revolution. Yeah, it's a revolution brought the Cuban to ascendancy. And in their ascendancy now, they became a threat to the United States. So the term revolution now is not something we can go on like say, it's not a useful tool. The term revolution doesn't just resonate only in Cuba as a Caribbean space. The history shows that the revolution, even preceded the Cuban Revolution, was a revolution in Haiti. And so it's important that as black people, we know that revolution is a tool. It's a tool when we can't take it no more, and we have to throw the thing off our back. But it is not an aimless and a confused situation, because it requires thought and intelligence to motivate and to steer a revolution. So we're looking at a situation in Jamaica now, where in the 70s produced a leader of international stature and was involved in the non-aligned struggle, was involved in the African struggle, had put Jamaica into the non-aligned orbit, had removed Jamaica from the capitalist framework, and attempting to create what was called its own pathway. And so, in trying to do those things, the government in the 70s adopted principles that are called socialists. And these principles, in a general sense, speak to the collective, where the strength of the society rests in the collective movement. And everything was tried to be emphasized that it's a we philosophy. But those philosophies cannot function on those talk, because all societies function on the basis of their economics. And so you cannot go around telling people that you're going to give them these things that are beneficial, and you don't know how you're going to finance it. So in a short, in my entrance, in January of 1980, in February of 1980, Michael Manley made a general announcement that in October 30th, there will be a general elections. 1980. This was announced in February. And this announcement allowed both camps to arm themselves to the teeth. The long and short of it, we have the history of the violence and the deaths and the murders in that time, and the disruption of our society. But 1980, October 30th, was declared the day of deliverance. Because the politics of the JLP was resonating around the idea of delivering the population from the ills and the suffering of this thing called socialism. And so Jamaica would about to go into this era that would be driven primarily by a force called capitalism. What is capitalism? What is capitalism? Is it something that is evil? Is it something that is necessary? And as Marcus Garvey was trying to suggest, can there be capitalism with a face on it? Metamorphosis. Brother Marcus Garvey told us that without commerce and industry, the people perish. Without commerce and industry, the people perish. What is the nature? What is the nature of this thing called capitalism? You see, as black people now in this Western world, we have a perspective of this thing, because the white man has a view of what capitalism is. What does it mean to the eye? Because we are now in a capitalist society. And I'm saying the whole process of this capitalization really was defined from the 1980 election onwards. And in 1980, this thing called deliverance. 1980 was a turning point in the history of Jamaica, as the forces that were loyal to capitalism and democracy, they actually outgunned the flailing forces of socialism and communism. So there was a war on our island between these forces, capitalism and democracy versus socialism and communism. And that election in 1980, it would bring to an end 8 years of rule by Michael Manley's PNP. And that election would put into office the Jamaica Labour Party's Edward Seaga. Manley was a brown-skinned Democrat, socialist. And Seaga was a white conservative. And Seaga had pledged to support Reagan policies in the Caribbean. So we have to kind of try to over the geopolitical structure and system at the time. Because America had just installed Ronald Reagan as their president, Hollywood cowboy, to resurrect the image of America. So I'm come with him bullyism, I'm come with him badmanism, no much different from Trump, coming out of Hollywood same way. But Reagan come to put America in charge. He never said America first, he just wanted America to be in charge of the area. And he had a great ally in Edward Seaga. In the same way, in the 1970s, Michael Manley had a great ally in Fidel Castro. So when Edward Seaga became Prime Minister, he became the first overseas visitor to visit Ronald Reagan. Yeah, Jamaica Prime Minister was the first one to go to the White House. So that was a public way of asserting this unity now between capitalist forces and how Jamaica would be operated from henceforth. Now, there has always been a struggle in this island between these two tribes, these two parties, the socialists and the labor rights. And living conditions and living standards is always what the people want. And you find out, I am not sure if the living standards of the people in Jamaica have really changed significantly from 1980 to now. Yeah, the general living standards, because people still complaining about the basics, which is water, medical services, roads, schools. The complaints have not changed. So what is it that is so brilliant about the leaders that we have been having from 1972 to the present? The 30th of October is recorded in Jamaican history as the day of political deliverance. The JLP swept the polls and they won 51 seats to the PNP 9. So we're talking about a total sweep out and a full-fledged acceptance by the governing forces that capitalism is the way to take Jamaica to the promised land. And interestingly now, Seaga had promised the people that once you elect him, is one thing he must go and do as a first action. And to show you how it's so serious, Seaga fulfilled his first re-election campaign promise. What was that? To break diplomatic ties with our closest neighbor, Cuba, and to chase out the ambassador out of the country. Deliverance. Relief to the distressed. Flour and rice come back on supermarket shelf. New cars, foreign used cars, color TV, videos, slackness galore, hard drug abuse rise, pushing the ganja herb aside, greed and corruption high, wickedness running wild. The haves keep it, while the have not keep on losing it. All in the name of economic justice. Free market forces the rich to get more, deregulating the anatomy of the poor. The dreams of the disenchanted dissolved in power and absolute authority. Capitalism, is it the way for a country like Jamaica to embrace as an economic philosophy to move this massive population? We have to explore the ills of capitalism. Metamorphosis.
Jambo, vipi, karibuni katika kipindi cha Doc Iman Blak. Kipindi chaitwa Metamorphosis. Jifundishe, elimika na mwelimike. Yeah, the program is moving and I must respond to Coach. It's Coach Mark telling me about sport and music. If it's Coach Mark speaking, is him? Is Coach Mark message that? But the person is really saying that to extend the reasoning to the what is really the connections between the Jamaica and Michael Manley and Fidel Castro. The fear of the United States wasn't just, as Mark is saying, it wasn't about Michael just being friendly with Fidel. It was that Fidel represented the Soviet Union. In other words, Cuba was a satellite of the Soviet Union. And the Americans always felt threatened with the Soviet Union in their backyard. Now, when Michael Manley decided to show allegiance along the lines of Fidel, it means Lada cars started coming to the country. So, it's really what Americans call preventing the domino effect from the American perspective. Because a few years later, Edward Seaga was instrumental in supporting the Americans' view to invade Grenada. Grenada was undergoing a revolution led by Maurice Bishop. And the United States felt threatened again by the whole concept of any sort of organization that threatens capitalism. The United States moves on it. So we have to wonder, what is this capitalism so? What is so
good about capitalism, that we have to be practicing this as an economic philosophy, where we recognize that capitalism actually emerged out of slavery. That's how we're going to go into what is the nature of capitalism. But speaking about the Seaga government in the change now, 1980, the Seaga government changed the philosophy of the political directorate. And so that philosophy manifests itself through the government institutions as well. Just like when in the 70s the PNP went socialist, the football was affected. The PNP socialist policies affected the football in the corporate area and brought about what was called Major League Football. So these philosophical directions by the political directorate influence and affect every institution that's in charge, that the government is in charge of. So when the government made this change in 1980, the government under Seaga also changed the general outlook of the idea of who must move the economy. And the focus in capitalism is that the economy must be driven by the private sector. So the ideology was that private sector's initiative and market mechanisms were required for the Jamaican economy to prosper. Now, this prospering of the economy now, we have to always wonder who prospers within the Jamaican economy when we talk about prosper. Who is it that really benefits? Because 50 years later, one set of people still in the same position. What also transpired with this new government was that the Seaga government ended up breaking what is called the self-reliance model of development. It was an attempt to inculcate into the mentality of the population the notion of self-reliance. Farming, feeding yourself. All of these are ideologies that was being promoted in the 70s. It might be now topical again to notice that these are the same things being said by the same government. That's being said by governments around the world, that we must learn to feed ourselves. So the Afrocentric influences that were vibrant during the 60s and 70s were systematically replaced by the culture of satellite dish and cable, and the cultural nuances bred by the PNP over the 8 years, the rhetoric of self-reliance and free education to the university level, that whole idea of consciousness, the liberal ganja trade, all of these things were immediately uprooted and replaced with IMF and World Bank prescriptions, structural adjustments, devaluations, parallel market, foreign exchange problems, and it goes on and on and on. Metamorphosis.
Extra, extra, read all about it. It's Fan Fusion tickets. Yes, pre-sold Fan Fusion tickets are now available at Styles FM Studio, 4 Barmouth Avenue, Port Antonio, White Case Pharmacy, West Street, Graham's Texaco, Port Antonio, Taj Pharmacy, West Street, La Best Sports Bar, Port Antonio, Trina's Ice Cream Shop, Hector's River. All Styles FM DJs have tickets as well. Morant Bay, Texaco. Also Universal Electrical and Plumbing Supplies, Wharf Road, Morant Bay, St. Thomas. For more information, call 518-2399. Get your tickets now.
Some say that Zika, dengue, and chikungunya are found in water, and that by drinking the water, we can get infected. But that's false. Zika, dengue, and chikungunya are transmitted through the bite of a mosquito that breathes in stagnant water. Protect yourself and your family.
Business operators, local and overseas. This announcement is for you.
Styles FM is an internationally known radio network with worldwide listeners in over 120 countries.
From our studio in Port Antonio, Jamaica, to the ears of the people in your community, our listeners can be your new customers.
Styles FM is an economical, efficient, and effective advertising option for your business.
No matter the size of your business, there's always growth potential. Styles FM provides the customer reach needed to realize that upward movement.
So procrastinate no more. Advertising is a must.
For more details on how to advertise with Styles FM, visit www.stylesfm.com or email info@stylesfm.com
or call us on 876-518-2399.
Styles FM, the world listens.
Architects, draftsmen, and surveyors, get your drawings printed in high-quality professional standards. We can satisfy your printing needs. Whether it is for presentation to your clients or for submitting building and subdivision application, make it VJ Printing Services. Whether drawing by hand or with computer-aided softwares, we will plot your negatives and print the copies as you need. We do high-quality white paper printing that is water-resistant and never fades, unlike traditional blueprint. For more information, call VJ Printing at 893-2266.
Are you sick of living an average life and tired of just getting by? Do you want to take your life to the next level? Learn the secrets of the super successful. Listen to Power in a Half Hour with Coach Mark this and every Wednesday night on Styles FM from 9 to 10 p.m. Learn the habits of the super successful and how to make these habits work for you. Learn to turn your dreams and desires into reality. You can win in the game of life. Let Coach Mark show you how. Every Wednesday night on Styles FM from 9 to 10 p.m.
Clifford Guest House, sponsor of Metamorphosis on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight with Dr. Iman Blak. Located at 15 Queen Street, Port Antonio, that's Titchfield Hill, they offer accommodations for up to 1 month. Call them at 285-0610 for more information.
Everything is going fine. Yes, blessed love. This is Denver Morgan saying, tune into the Metamorphosis with Dr. Iman Blak every Monday night from 9 p.m. to midnight. Be ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Jah Rastafari.
When I and I should know that we are one. The time has come when I and I should know that we are one. We are one. We are one. Oh yes, we are one. The time has come when I and I should know that we are one. The time has come when I and I should know that we are one. We are one. We are one. We are one. Oh yes, we are one. Jah people, we are one. Jah people, we are one. Jah people, we are one. Oh yes, we are one. We are one. Jah people, we are one. Jah people, we are one. Jah people, we are one. Oh yes, we are one. We are one.
Yeah, the 1970s globally, the black people of the world really had this feeling that we were really one people now. Yeah, there was a global realization that black people must unite. The cricketers recognize it. The black people around the globe recognize that it's about time that we take off the shackles off the brain and off our pockets. Because it's enough to know that it's off our feet and our hands, but the pocket chain up. So how do we liberate our pockets? How do we remove the chains from our pocket? Because I was able to remove the chain from our brains, our minds, and we have to free the mind. And that's another issue because we have to free what we know. But we're looking at my experiences as it relate to the passing of a prime minister who has passed, and how it has affected this island, and how through the lens, my lens, because that's how I see it. It's just my experience. And as I said today, I have no affiliation to any of these groups because I never live out in practical life that 70s thing and the struggle and you have to take a side and family split and you can't go in a certain community and the ball split up. I never in that. I either leave the black struggle in America.
in the 70s. I know black struggle. So it was very shocking to me when I left that struggle to come to Jamaica to see black man and kill after one another over orange and green. It took me years in Jamaica to settle in my consciousness, to understand the violence in our tribal politics. Because in America, you just know say black man and the enemy is a white man. When you come to Jamaica, it's a black man that kill a black man and it's always some little white man in charge. Overseers, and ultimately you see the plantation still in operation. So, as I said to them now, 1980 was a shock year. And in that time, enough man tell me I soon leave because I can't stay during the war. And it was a war here. And the war was being fueled by Soviet forces with them AK-47. And the Americans would feed them whatever gun them had. And we had a world war, proxy war fighting right here in Jamaica. The Americans exercising the Monroe Doctrine. The same thing they're doing in Venezuela now. The same bullyism and demanding that capitalism must be the way forward. And they define who are dictators. They define who are despots. But it's tyrants running America. Hidden behind something called democracy and capitalism. We have to unmask this capitalism and democracy thing. Because connected to that, the trinity, Yeah, the democracy and the capitalism and the Christianity. That is the evil trinity. And we get boxed around between these three forces and we can't plan with black self. So the 1980 shift is tectonic. Yes, revolutionary, through violence. And it brings capitalism to the front. The switch also had an effect on the music. Because there was a change also now in the musical content. The lyrical content of the music shifted. It moved from what was hard, biting, social commentary, what was biblical philosophical utterances. It moved from those things to nursery rhyme and views on your genitals. That is where the thing shifts. Vulgar lyrics became normal and mainstay now on local radio. And local radio programming became a different thing in this deliverance era. At the structural level of the society, I was of the view that Jamaica had become now militarized. Because what the government began to do is install military men in key positions. I suppose that this was an attempt to instill what was called discipline. Because there's a kind of waywardness and a haywire thing that operates under what they call the socialism. There's a difference. And in that socialism framework, people feel that them can hustle more. Yeah, more hustling can go on, and there's a kind of less order and strictness. And a lot of people seem to benefit from that. This other party, when them come to power now, them come and draw some strings and talk about following policies, but it's never usually benefiting the greater majority. So that has always been, to me, part of the difference in the expression of these two groups. But 1980 is very important, I think, for understanding why we are where we are today. So the switch in the music brought about an expression that is called individualism. Because capitalism now is driven by individualism. Unlike socialism, which tries to emphasize the collective, capitalism speaks about the individual. And that's why we have to talk amongst ourselves. Is this what we would need as an economic philosophy, where the outlook is only for the individual, and we have to adopt this thing now called survival of the fittest? Now, I'm sure everybody heard that phrase already. Survival of the fittest. But what that really means, we want to talk about the collective as a people. Survival of the fittest is an individual thing, with the European, from my point of view, developed through them, their relationship to their knowledge that comes from Charles Darwin. And Darwin is one of the scientists that the Europeans have as a god. And out of his research, he come up with the theory of evolution and the concept of survival of the fittest. And I'm saying black people have to stop and check them argument, you know, because the survival of the fittest, long time, they tell you that, we're not surviving. We're not surviving because our survival must be dependent on our collective effort. So capitalism does not motivate and develop collective efforts. It encourages more individuals. And as a people, can we begin to really rally around and to build a concept of a nation when we are being driven by individualism? We have to check these things now, because we can't be asking for the one thing and doing something in the opposite. So our economics is moving us in a direction wherein we're not even trusting each other anymore. So what we used to run in the 70s like partner, where the poor people now could get a chance to hold a lump sum to do something as an investment. We have dropped those things because we no longer trust each other because of this individualism. And the capitalism is one of those things that encourages people to be individual. In other words, the culture of individualism or straightforward American style capitalism, that's all people in Jamaica begin to realize they have to apply that for them survival. And so before we get to 1983, I recognize that the society had moved away from the spirit of collectivism. The idea of we get a beaten. And it moved from we to the crass individualistic me. And we have been earning the wrath of the me society. Me this, me that. Rastafari had recognized early the danger of me. And Rastafari had maintained that instrument of consciousness called the I. And it was a very powerful tool during the 70s. The I-ness, the I consciousness. It was right through Jamaica. It was in the music. It was in the food. It was in the dress. The consciousness of the I. But by the time deliverance started to rule, the I had to take a back seat. And everything was about me. Cultural artists had to take a back seat. Because it's slackness time. I mean, I tell you, we have been reaping those seeds that were planted from those times. Because so planting going on. It's what you plant, what you reap. Metamorphosis. There were stringent IMF prescriptions that were imposed on the Jamaican society that cut in the basic standard of living, particularly on the poor. The JLP government established an eradication squad within the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So it's not today the government, whether JLP or PNP, have been creating these special forces. And we see the outcome and the result in 2019. The names change, but the behavior and the results don't change. Eradication Squad. There was also the Suppression of Crime Act that was unleashed on the population. And that gave the security forces unlimited powers of arrest and detention. It's not the first time we're going down these roads. In 1983, the newly elected Siaga government called a snap election. And this put Jamaica in a very, very peculiar position. Because this snap election, it came just a little bit before the Americans invaded Grenada. and them assassinate Maurice Bishop. The PNP refuse to contest the general elections. They argue that the voters list, there's a problem with the voters list. And so the JLP, under the leadership of Siago, swept back into power. This time with all 60 parliamentary seats. Michael Manley and the PNP, they decided to take it to the streets. So the Queen's loyal opposition decided to function in the streets. You see, we need to know our own story, because our things seem to be very cyclic. And we're having these two tribes who exchange roles as leadership, but we're seeing that nothing really structural and fundamental has changed. Yet the people arguing about which leader was the greater of the two leaders, which one of them do more, whose legacy is the deepest. And here we are in 2019, under the greatest wave of violence unleashed on the society from angles that the politicians cannot even control. So we have to stop and think, how did we get here? What were the seeds that were planted? And can we heal ourselves with truth and introspection? Metamorphosis. Yes, just sharing the item, my views on these events that transpire through this country and what has been attributed to the great leadership at the political level, because the argument in the country now is that that Edward Seaga's given up the ghost, the analysis and the comparison is on. And because the two tribes are so polarized, they're both seeing themselves, their hero as their god and the other one as a villain. So it's a serious binary set up in this island wherein people are only able to see things through the lens of their own colors, of their own party. But through any colors I lean with the lights green and gold or black, red and green, I don't really have a problem looking on without any emotion attached. So I give thanks for the detachment emotionally from these two groups that give her a chance to look at Jamaica for what it is. Now, there's a place in West Kingston because Edward Seaga is like a god in West Kingston. People would seem to cry. There are people who would do anything because of what he has, let us say, done for the community. And we have areas that we can identify. And the most outstanding area that I relate to now is really sports and to another extent music. So Edward Seaga came into the country as a youth because we know that he was born in Boston. But coming in to understand the Jamaican society, the first thing you have to penetrate is the people's culture. Anywhere you go and you want to get a grip of who the people are and how they behave, you have to get a grip of them culture. And Seaga went right to the belly of it. He went into the Kumina, he going to the revival, and him going to the places where we kind of afraid as black people because them tell us that it's voodoo and them things. But them white man, they will go anywhere. Yeah, forget them research and them information. So Seaga has built up an empire. And from as a youth I go KC, we hear about Tivoli. But he never had a sound that carried any fear with it. But between the 70s and the 80s, as I said to the island, I never hear. I was at a distance fighting my own survival in the black jungle, in the belly of the beast in North America. But here, what really exposed Tivoli Gardens is because of what happened to the son of Lester Coke, or Dudos. A lot of people don't know much about his father, Jim Brown, and the relationship between Jim Brown and the Tivoli Gardens environment and the politicians, the labor right politicians. So there's clear linkages, people know these things, between the politicians and the gunmen in certain communities. Tivoli Gardens had gotten to a point where it became so notorious that anywhere in Jamaica you go and you, let us say you and a man have a little argument and tell you, say, boy, a Tivoli come from, you start shaking on your shoes. Because the association with Tivoli was all about bad man and gangsterism, to the point where Tivoli had its own laws. And let us be conscious. If the United States did not come into Jamaica, we would not be able to get rid of that state that was inside our state. Yeah, look at it carefully. Because none of the governments, none of the parties could remove the state because they were part of the building. They were part of putting that infrastructure together. So on an island like Jamaica, Tivoli developed to a point where it was a state within a state with its own president, its own hospital, its own court system. That sounds like somewhere in Southeast Asia. We hear about some militia will take over some place. That was what is happening here in the island. The JLP under Bruce Golding sacrificed his political life to literally protect a gangster. And ultimately, it took the United States government to force Coke out of the country and to get him to their prison system. So you realize that none of these two groups who call themselves political parties are free or can claim themselves to be innocent of the building up of those forces in Tivoli Gardens. And I give you my perspective now, what happened after the Americans pulled down Tivoli. The gangster head, the head of the serpent, the gangsters, They moved out of Tivoli and they all went towards Spanish Town. And for a good period after Tivoli uprising and the whole invasion and the deaths of the people there, the hottest spot in Jamaica was Spanish Town. And when the police and the military put force on it, that force moved further down the island into Clarendon. And you start hear about Clarendon and that and that. And they're again pressured. You know where the man them keep going, where the man them end up? Western Jamaica. And Western Jamaica now is a big open space. Is that a getaway man and hide and run up and down behind zinc fence and a jump between corners? It's a wide open space. And so what we have really looking at now is the expression of this ingrown violence that has gone beyond the politicians into the hands of private guys who have their own money through scamming and various devices. So you look in Maypen where there, and it's a 2 motor car with men with guns heavier than the police, moving like them training. From a distance, you would say it looked like a militia. But we don't want to get overexcited. We want to realize that, look, we are living in a war environment. And it's not just local, it's international. We have to lift up our heads out of our Facebook and lift up our head out of certain things that we're buried into and pay attention to what is going on around us. It's not just a local thing. There's a global war being fought. It's being manifested here in Jamaica. And the people, the black people, must move away from just being spectators and victims and become more conscious and become more organized amongst themselves. Make us start find ways to have trust in each other. Because without that, there is no coming together. We will remain individuals. We need to break away from that individual mold of capitalism and begin to move into the collective mold of communalism. And hear me now, you know, I never said communism. I said communalism, because that is what it is. Is corrupt. Them corrupt the term communalism to this thing called communism. And in communism, there's no different from capitalism, because ultimately it's one group of people control the people who are wealthy. We call them oligarchs. Metamorphosis.
Seriously, the most dangerous thing that exists in the world today is seriously. Oh yes it is. Hey, the way the people are living nowadays, let me tell you it's a serious thing. Can't get no work, can't get no pay. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. The little children, they can't go to school. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. Teachers demonstrating for their salaries. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. To come home to find your children out of school and on the streets idling is a very serious thing. This arises from a situation where instead of teachers or in the school teaching, they're on the streets demonstrating, and that's a so much wars and famine on the land. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. Yet we are making more war plans. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. There is no attention on the youth nowadays. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. No future plans for opportunities. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. The devastating memory of Hiroshima has not quenched the blood and thirst of Satan, and that's a very serious thing. His future plans are to devour your children as he eats some bread and to create instead the dawn of the dead. In town and country it's the same old cry. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. Brothers and sisters, I'm a telling no lie. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. Sometimes you'd wonder if you're wrong or right. Let me tell you it's a serious thing. If you've got to stand up and fight, let me tell you it's a serious thing. The struggle for the black man's man's liberty against the vicious apartheid system of South Africa is a very serious thing. And if the weapon of resistance is in the hand of the oppressed against the oppressors, then that also is a very serious thing.
Can't pay my bills, can't pay my rent. Now let me tell you, it's a serious thing. Food is essential, but I ain't got a cent. Let me tell you, it's a serious thing. So much people begging in the streets. Let me tell you, it's a serious thing. Some are picking up to have a bite to eat.
Yes, we want to engage the concept of capitalism. What is capital? Can we have a society functioning and we don't really pay attention to capital? See, we have to look at our story now, coming off the plantation as enslaved people who never have no news for capital because we were the labor. We were the creators of capital for the slave owners. So we could get that understanding. When it comes to capital and ownership, we're coming from a position of non-capital and lack ownership in critical things like land. And if you lack ownership in land, you lack something else called power. So within capitalism now we realize that power is really held by those who own the land. The landowners are one of the sources of power within the society called capitalism. And the manufacturers. The black people in general have simply just been units of labor. So we're not encouraged through education or anything else to focus on building capital. We don't have no idea what that is, but we just hear say, boy, you know, we're living in a capitalist society. There are a lot of Jamaicans who are elderly, who have a hanging over from the 70s period. It's like a hangover. Them still hold on to this idea of being a socialist society and they must share things and this and that and no go so. Jamaica is a very individual place, no different from America. We have been breaking up our family structures, so we don't have any great dependency extensively in an extended way. So you have more people end up in the street. People putting out them the older parents now, them putting them out to places and they don't go back for them. So a whole heap of things break down in the morality when you begin to hug up this thing called capitalism. It is driven by individual efforts. Now, competition is crucial as an element of capitalism. How much people out there are competitive? How many people feel that they are competitive? How many people love competition? How many people can't take competition? Because competition is something that is really necessary, you know, at certain levels, you know. Because it's really something that really brings out what is within. It can bring out the best in you. It can also bring out the worst. But competition tends to bring out what is within. Now, we are also linked into this idea now of survival of the fittest. I don't know how we as black people could ever embrace that idea. Because survival of the fittest, speaking to an individual trying to survive, an individual. It doesn't speak of a collective. So once you hold on now to these things that they teach us, that you must be competitive and you must be an individual, and then you must try to amass as much as you can individually. And the ultimate motivation now behind capitalism is profit. So all of the things you are doing, I'm saying to you, make sure so you get a profit. Now, this profit now must be something that you add on to what you spend. In other words, if you invest X amount of dollars, you must get back X amount plus. But here, the difficulty now about this thing now. In capitalist societies, in order for those people to make profit, they have to get labor now that is almost free. So here we are now in a society that is depending on labor but they want the labor cheap or they want the labor free. Because if them don't get those two conditions, them say them can't make no profit. So you see, I know lock up in this capitalist framework and conditioned to be workers, which is just a graduation of a slave with a better title. When will we ever accumulate and have resources? When? When we're always underpaid or unemployed. And the capitalist will tell you that his system will prosper when there is a large unemployed pool. So here we go now. The government telling us that they're looking for increase employment. But the capitalist wants a large unemployed pool to draw from that they can pay you the cheapest labor. So it's a contradiction. And who suffers in that contradiction? The workers. So you have security guard who being paid the level of a slave. Yeah. And they call that employment. So the capitalism thing, no. I tell you them. They don't even discuss these things in school enough to give the youth a clarity as to what this capitalism. They must argue it up because America practices capitalism. But capitalism is a white man economic philosophy where him have the power. Him have the land and he makes the laws. So in the Jamaican scenario now, when Michael Manley got moved out of office and Edward Seaga came to power and the JLP were in office from 1980 and the snap election was called and the JLP retained its seats with more things. In 1986 there was a local elections and the PNP swept that. So for the first time the country had the governing power had no foundation at the root. And the interesting part now is that when the JLP left office and the PNP returned to office, the PNP returned not as socialists, but as capitalists. Because Michael Manley had taken off his bush jacket or the Kariba, and all of the African talk, all of the non-aligned talk had gone through the window because what? The forces of capitalism driven by the United States overwhelmed our little experiment with socialism and our link with Fidel Castro. And Manley came to the conclusion that there's only one direction that this region will run economically. It's going to be the capitalist way. And so the JLP and the PNP from 1989 onwards have both been practicing the economic philosophy of capitalism. And that capitalism, that same ism, supports unemployment. It supports cheap labor. It supports all of the things that keep black people impoverished and giving them the feeling that they are working. But when I was on the plantation working, what's the difference? Glorified slaves we are.
Proper being.
Yeah, we have to begin to think more in the collective. Yeah, we're overwhelmed with the me. And as a one person on this WhatsApp say, you know, Jamaica develop a mentality where all for me and none for you. Yeah, the person said it hurts to know that most people in Jamaica don't know if their neighbors go to bed hungry. Yeah, individual mentality has taken a different level in Jamaica. I mean, we're going, you know, when we do things on there, we just do it to the extreme. We're either very good or we're very bad. We're not in the middle ground of things. And the me consciousness, and the item here I speak about the Trinity within the personality of the black man. That the me is an important element of the personality, but there's the I and there's the self. And if you become overwhelmed with the me, you will never reach a level of awareness that is required to transform your whole being, because there are higher forces within. The me is a physical temple, you know. The me is a body. But the me is not driven by the me only. The me also have a consciousness that is motivated by the I. And so we have to resurrect the I consciousness. Yeah, and make the I consciousness supreme. So when me say, me hungry, I say, me just eat. So me can't hungry. The I say that. And so the I not moving for any food. All the me are going like it hungry. I know, say, me get some food 2 hours ago. And a basic level of nutrition tell me, say, it not digest yet. So if me say, me want more food, me know say just a greedy vibrations emerging out of me, and the I must rise up and say no. But we have surrendered the I. And the me is running wild in Jamaica. That it reaches to the extreme that even the child is acting as though the whole world revolves around their me. Because everybody gets to that state of awareness, you know, early in life, the me consciousness. But some people just never grow up. Everybody grows, but not everybody grow up. And to grow up means you have to move away from just think the universe revolves around me and realize that it really revolves around the I. And the I is a higher principle. The I is a directing force. So we have to look into our faults, our shortcomings that has reached us through politics and religion, and try to resurrect and redeem our own psychology. So the capitalism philosophy, emphasizing about fitness of the fittest, ask yourself, what does it make? How do you define a fit person in a capitalist society? First thing you have to say, them have money. Because the capitalist society is driven by money, not by volunteerism. So people no longer give favors anymore. Nobody begins to act out of conscience, like conscience get a beaten. As my brother said, Dracula look like Dracula eat out of conscience. So there's no more feeling amongst ourselves as a people, because we've become so atomized. And the technology now has made us even more isolated. That there are 10 people in a room, each of them have a phone in their hand, and none of them notice each other. That one can drop dead, and the other 9 would not know. So much are we into the me. But Rastafari is here, you know. And Rastafari will always speak about the I, and the I, and the I. Rastafari.
Hail for I. Guide I forever I. Forever I. This is a conscious revolution. Then take away with privacy. This social media is more. I'm telling you. More than a means to distract and confuse. You could have come from there, could have come from far. White like a snow, could have black like tar. No matter if you're righteous or you're bad like Escobar. I tell you, they have control over you. Boy, don't listen to the media, them. Don't take sides, don't take bribes, just be wiser men. Them and those that come around and make promises. Promises that turn out to lies. This is a conscious revolution. Conscious revolution. They take away with privacy. They take
care for high and I. People are wise up and see right through their lies. People are fed up, enough is enough. The world is in need of change. Free up the innocent ones who they have been at the slammer. Calling all the troops who defend human rights and honor. Tired of poverty, where's our sovereignty? We want it, yeah.
This is a conscious revolution.
Revolution.
Then take away with privacy.
All of it, yeah.
This social media is more.
It's more.
More than a means to distract and confuse. This is a conscious revolution.
Conscious revolution.
Then take away with privacy.
Yeah, we need a revolution. We need a revolution that is driven by consciousness. What is consciousness? That's another program. But we need a revolution. And it's awareness. Cause not run up and down in the street and fling so and buckle after doing what you doing and people come beat you up and you tell about revolution. That's foolishness, you know. It has been driven by a philosophy. And the philosophy that I need to really use, I think, to contradict and counteract our oppression under capitalism is nothing that is new. It has been articulated by one of our greatest leaders from the 1920s, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And what capitalism seems to have as its greatest enemy is not communism, you know, is self-reliance. It is a philosophy of self-reliance that the capitalists them can't manage. Because self-reliance now is a philosophy that talks about upliftment of yourself and your immediate environment. It's not about giving your hours to an owner for him to define what you get in return, and what you get in return gives you just enough food to bring you back to his workplace of slave. So Marcus Garvey, you see why them man they get such a serious amount of resistance. That none of the groups in Jamaica, none of these parties, none of these families, none of these wealthy people who promoting capitalism, not promoting Garvey. Because Garvey promoting a capitalism, Garvey is promoting a capitalism, but one that is articulated and orchestrated to develop and upgrade black people. So you want to call it black capitalism? How would that work? Because if capitalism does deal with oppression and exploitation, what would be different about it if it's black? And Garvey tried to explain that this thing called capitalism needs to have a face on it. And the face is what will remove the brutality that the Europeans attach to everything them do. Them deal with Christianity, there's a brutality attached. Them deal with economics, there's a brutality attached. We don't have to follow everything them do. That's the whole point. We don't have to follow back at them people. Them just come. We are the originals. So self-reliance. And how do you arrive at self-reliance? It begins with consciousness. Where the first stage to self-reliance is self-awareness. And awareness means knowledge now, of your family, knowledge of your history, of your culture, that is what makes you aware. So you can't be self-reliant and not aware. It's insanity. You can't be self-reliant and unaware. What are you reliant about? So that is why the knowledge is important, and history and Nile Valley culture and all these things you hear people speak about African. That is hope to bring people to a level of awareness. But that's not enough. You can be aware and still trapped by certain ideologies that are put out there. So you need to move from just being aware now to becoming self-confident. Confidence is what is lacking in most of our people because it's not motivated environment. Everything you see around you is always demoralizing black people and always demonizing black people. So it's hard to be confident. So we have to move from that awareness to confidence to self-respect. You see, when we start getting to self-respect now, we start broke down the boogie behavior amongst our own selves. We start gallop the girl them, and we start boy up the males them, and we begin to put some respect in the how we address each other. I hardly hear them call a white man anything more than women, But we find the worst type of names to style up our own kind. and glorifying every time you find one that is atrocious, everybody make a big thing about it. That's a sign of sickness. And the same cure will not come. The cure for our sickness will not come from the outside. We have to find the cure within our own thinking. And I'm saying self-consciousness, self-awareness, awareness of the I, the knowledge of the I as it relates to the self, which is a societal construction, because we don't bond with ourselves. So the self is manufactured through society and through environment with the I and the me. We have this thing called the self. So to reach self-reliance is a journey. It's a journey through consciousness that takes it from that awareness to the respect, to the confidence, to the levels now where you can manifest action confidently. That you can begin to demonstrate self-reliance. Now you can rely upon your own thoughts to solve your own situation. So that's where we need to get to before we can talk about attacking the evils of capitalism. Because we are the victims in capitalism. We are the pawns. We are the tools. We are the laborers. We are the units of labor. And we work and we slave on the plantations from can't see a day to can't see a night. Them take off the chains and we still at work from can't see a day to can't see a night. And the return doesn't assist our family life. We can't pay our medical bills. We're living and borrowing and begging. Yet we are working. So working is not a good thing then. We need to be engaged in self-employed activities that generate goods and services that I and I define. Manufacturing. That's why I say all the while we're forgetting to all manufacturing of hemp. Self-reliance. Under capitalism, black people will be slaves. Units of labor. But will not be in a strong position to begin to be the owners of capital. Because that's the key now, you know. How do you own capital? Like a stadium, like a football field. How do you own capital that can generate revenue? We have to stop afraid of money. Metamorphosis.
Founders of science and of art.
Yeah, the metamorphosis, drifting into our story, Alkibu land, Kimit, what it was before we got captured by Christian European forces, Islamic forces. Because there's a time when there is no Islam, you know. And there's a time when there is no Jesus and Muhammad and all these and Abraham, and there's a time when these guys never existed. Not even as a thought. And in their non-existence, the black African people, the Kemetic people, trod in land, building civilization and culture, mathematics and physics, all the sciences, chemistry. That's why the place was called Kemet. The word chemistry comes from Kemet, and Kemet means black. So before the Islamic forces and the Christian forces reached into the continent, it was called the Black Continent. Kemet. Some people go on like say the word black don't exist, you know. Me hear enough people go on, let them try to, you know, remove the word out of existence. But black is what it is. And it is everything. Everything emerges out of the blackness. Just allow the sun to go around into night and allow the night to surface. And you see the power in darkness. So, when we're talking about politics and economic philosophy and thinking that, you know, we are caught up in between these two forces of capitalism and communism, and it's like the devil and God and you must choose one, and each side telling that they are the best. As African black people, none of those two things benefit us, because in both cases we are slaves and laborers. We're not in control of the economy. So change is needed. And for I and I as a people, the change can't be just a cosmetic change. If we really want to get a change, we can have cosmetic changes, you know. For example, two elections. An election is a cosmetic change. You see the fundamental changes of power in the society change through revolution. And revolution requires knowledge and commitment and vision and leadership. Now, when we talk about revolution, people usually panic, especially those who control, because right away them think they will lose the grip and the advantage what them have and the whatever. But look at it this way. There is a history to revolution. There is a history to change. And as black people now, the revolution that we have been told about in school was always the ones in Europe. Them tell you about the French Revolution. And them tell us about the American Revolution. We even learn about the Russian Revolution. And those three revolutions become outstanding in the education system when them claims to them teaching, because white man are teach about themselves. When it comes to the black man and his engagement in revolution, we don't have to go to Africa and Asia. Like, we can look right into this region. Look into the Antilles and look into Haiti. And the Haitians under Desailly launched a serious revolution in the midst of slavery. This is why it was revolutionary. Because in the midst of slavery, one state led by Africans, black people, decided to reject all of Europe in combination. France, Britain, Spain, all of them defeated by Haiti. And you know what was essential in the armory of Haiti? What was critical in them weaponry to defeat them white people? A thing called voodoo. Yeah, voodoo. They say voodoo, and we just jump and get scared. But voodoo, the philosophical power that the Haitians applied in their everyday life, allow them to reject and resist the armies of Europe. So the armies of Europe were coming with them Christianity. They had a problem overcoming the power of the voodoo. In the same way the British struggled with the Maroons and Nani and the voodoo. So
So the one them, I must learn to lose a fear of what is called voodoo and begin to explore what is this voodoo. What is it that the Christians are so afraid of? And people think Haiti mash up because of hurricane and tornado and storm. It's Christianity is the biggest weapon used against the Haitians, even today. So revolution is something that is required when you begin to feel the foot in your neck of the oppressor. But we're not conditioned in our education to think that revolution is something that must be done. We think it's something that is what the white people do. When they want to be free. When black people want to be free now, we must protest and demand emancipation. We must not revolt. And the revolution that was in Haiti started to catch fire in Jamaica. It started to catch fire right in Maran Bay. And Paul Bogo revolution, them tone it down into a revolt and a rebellion. So when you rebellion and revolt, it coming like nothing. It coming like a little troublesome people, a revolt. But it was a revolution. And the response to that revolution was massive. Military-wise, it also brought us into being the thing called the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And today we see the outcome of that force that was set up to protect and preserve the wealthy people. That's why they brought it into position to oppress the spirit of resistance, to oppress the Paul Boga revolution, to oppress black people's revolutionary energies. The police force was invented. And has it changed its role from then till now? You be the judge. Metamorphosis. Let me tell you about a revolution that is not spoken about anywhere, anytime, unless you listen to the Metamorphosis. It's because the Europeans control the media and they control the flow of information. It don't mean you can't access information, but you have to have a desire. Because all things are out there. Now, Nile Valley culture is an important reference point for any black person, any black man, woman who want to get in touch with them divinity must make a link with the culture of Nile Valley. And in that period of our existence, there was a revolution. There was a revolution in ancient Egypt. 1353 BC. So the one who want to make a notation of this now and run upon this and check it out. It was called the Armana Revolution. Armana. Yes, this revolution is not talked about anywhere. Nowhere. Because it's not considered to be of importance to the Europeans. But to every black man treading the earth today, every black child, every black woman should read or know about this revolution. I'm sure you know about the American Revolution. And you can tell me out some characters in it and some incidents. But the Armana Revolution, I put it on the front table. And because we have access to so much information, just type in A-M-A-R-N-A, Amarna. A-M-A-R-N-A. And you're going to come upon a wonderful piece of history that speaks about a revolution that was driven by a king, an Egyptian king. His name is Amenhotep IV. Now, remember now, revolution is about change, but you see, revolutions can occur in different aspects of our life. It can occur in the economics of our society. It can occur in the political, in the religious, and ultimately revolutions occur in what we call the mind of man. That is the fundamental and the most dangerous place now for the revolution, in the mind of man. And the mind, as I said earlier in the program, the mind is like the ocean. It is deep and it is vast. And there's a relationship between the mind and the ocean. That there are really three great oceans, that really form one continuous body of water. And the mind, as the parallel, really have three levels. The conscious, the subconscious, and the collective unconscious. So there are similarities between what we call the mind and the ocean, which is a mind for all living things within it. So the mind is not an individual thing that is in a person's head. The mind is what we are in, which is the atmosphere. So it's a projection that I want them try to work with. Because when people talk about the mind, I'm always pointing to them head. And you ask them what them brain is, them pointing to them head. And for our own clarity, there is no doubt that the brain is in the head. But the mind is something far more than an object that is located in our brain. So, this period now called the Armana period in ancient Egypt, that was motivated by a king, Akhenaten. And the dates are 1353 to 1336, before the birth of Jesus and all of these things that boggle our brain today. What was the need of this revolution? It is a king who was bringing a new philosophy to the society. A religious philosophy. So this now is a religious revolution. And I'm telling them, today, 2019, we are still experiencing the repercussions of that revolution in ancient Egypt in 1353, before the Christian era. Because this king, Amenhotep IV, first thing he did within the revolution was to change his own name. Yeah, he changed his name as a symbol, as a part of the revolution. Because the revolution can't be something outside just so. It has to begin in the mind. And he changed his name from Amenhotep IV to Akhenaten. To Akhenaten. And that whole idea of being called Akhenaten was because he decided to change Egypt's religion. This is a man who changed the religion of ancient Egypt from polytheism to the concept of worshipping one God, the Aten. A-T-E-N. So this is where the thing is coming from. This bow down to the one God that we are under today, the God of Moses. The original construct of the one God wasn't the God of Moses. Moses came into life and existence in literature years after. Years after the Armana Revolution. It is this revolution that replaced the gods and goddesses as the normal to the one God. And this king used all his energies to promote the one God called Aten, to the extent that the Egyptian empire began to crumble. Because the king refused to pay attention to the empires, other countries that were far away from ancient Egypt. He was so fixated with promoting the philosophy of one God that he forget about the military responsibilities and forget about certain governmental policies, and Egypt started to crumble. But he was overwhelmed with the notion of one God, and he had to find a symbol to represent the one God. That one thing that created life that runs through all living things. And he recognized that that one object that does all those things is the sun. Very, very practical. So the sun, the S-U-N, according to Akhenaten, is the creator, is the sustainer of life on earth. And so the one God concept that we know as black people had nothing to do with a cruel God. It had nothing to do with a God of mercy who wanted us to give him prayers and who would punish and who was wicked and jealous. And that is not what we know. So we need to create a revolution in our thinking as it relates to the concept of the one God. If we begin to reject that one God of Moses and begin to review and revisit the original one God, which is the God of Aten. And that one God is a God of justice, is a God of mercy. Unlike the one God that we're under now, which is a wicked and dreadful and terrible character, is a tyrant. So the revolution needed in black minds is a revolt against that one God. Revolt against the God of Moses and Abraham and begin to embrace the Nile Valley culture, which introduced to the world the one God of perfection, the God of mercy, the God of truth. The Egyptian philosophy spoke about Mahat, rightness, justness. That's what we know as a people. But we have been reduced to chattel. And in that chattel conditions, we have lost our consciousness. And in that loss of consciousness, we have become pawns, that we become units of labor in a system that calls itself capitalist, wherein the minority reaps the benefit from the majority, and the majority gets the minority out of their labor. That is not sustainable. Elections cannot sustain that. So a change is needed. And the change is not a flip-flop between the two tribes. The change must be revolutionary. And it must begin in the mind. Metamorphosis.
Like a beautiful stream. Hey, hey, it's here in this world and it's reigning supreme. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something, so
Let us seek first the heavenly kingdom, because of it's something that keeps on glittering, because of it's something so many people are fighting, because of it's something that keeps on glittering, because of it's something so many people are fighting. Sodom and Gomorrah, we don't wanna see. Mama world empire, we don't wanna see. Don't wanna see the world turn into a cemetery. Don't wanna see the world turn into a cemetery. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something so many people are fighting. Because of this something that keeps on glittering. Because of this something so many people are fighting.
You see that king named Akhenaten, you know, say what the historians have uncovered, that he had a very, very beautiful wife. Yeah. She was Queen Nefertiti. And his Nefertiti, them say, was a force behind the new monotheism religion. Is a woman. So we as black people, we don't know nothing without woman involved, you know. When the white man come to you and tell you about, you know, you can have a father and a son and a ghost and a holy ghost. We know that. We reject that. Reject that outrightly. With no apology. And nobody can come tell me about things can go on without a feminine principle. And go with that. That is Rome. Rome who thinks that men should hug and love men. We have females to hug as males. And we now try hug man. We hug them in a sporting game and we win because we're celebrating. But we now carry no beyond that. So it was Queen Nefertiti. And all the women must go out and look up who this woman is. Nefertiti, her name means the beautiful one is here. You see, you have to name Mary. You never have them look up Jack and Jill name there. We can go into our culture and draw upon the names of our empires, of our emperors, of our queens. So you see, that's why I tell you, I know your name is an important part of that trinity that makes up your identity. So the trinity of the identity is your gender and your race and your name. And the name is what gives you that, what we call now our spirituality, because it's connected to a history and a genetics and a whole story. So you can't just go in and look a box and draw out a name and give your child. You're going to burden them if it's not uplifting and positive. So Nefertiti, Queen, the force behind the new religion. And Akhenaten had several daughters who were also influential. So black man, we're not no problem, we're not suffering from no superiority complex and insisting that the women are inferior. It's a white man ideology. So when a white woman tell you about women's liberation, a different thing. A different thing she run from. She run from a slave owner. So when the black woman jump on, oh, yes, we want to be liberated. What are you doing? You are destroying black family and race. That is your action in your argument about your following women's life. The white women have a different objective. Until the black women wake up to that, we're in a problems. Because unless the gender come together, the race is separate. Because it's males and females make up the thing. It's so simple. That if you can set the male against the female and the female against the male, you would have defeated the race. And that has been the methodology for the last 300-400 years. And it is working, and we as a black people feeding into it and giving it strength. So revolution is something that we need to recognize, and recognize that women have a critical role to play in anything that is revolutionary. Because remember now, them are the key. The black woman in Jamaica get up and decide, say, we're not going to more church. It done. What I say? The thing done. Because them is the energy. Where I'm in Abbeville, them have a convention. It started last night. And me and my brethren them stand outside. And every taxi that come up, a 3-4 women step out of it. And we say I count, and we say, they will say I look upon them now, and we say as some good looking woman. And we say I look upon them, and we say as some nice bodied woman. And it's pure woman piling into this convention. So there is a problem. And they're going in there to listen to a little man tell them all kind of things. So anyhow them decide they're not going. And then when they start take the money and invest in some other things, the whole thing change up. The power of the revolution change rests, I am saying, in the woman them. And the more them scandalize and reduce our women to what them want them to be is a greater chance of us remaining in slavery. So our freedom, our liberation is connected intimately to the liberation of the female. So her upgrading is essential. Her view of herself, her self-awareness, her self-confidence, her self-respect, all those things must be put in place. Otherwise, the greater the grief under this capitalism.
The most anticipated party of the summer is back. Styles FM Fan Fusion Party Episode 6 Drunken Masquerade. Saturday, July 13, 2019 at the Bayview Waterfront Property, Oysters Bay, Port Antonio, Jamaica. Come hear Styles FM's finest DJs juggling retro hits from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Admission $700 pre-sold. $1,000 at the gate. VIP $3,500. Styles Evo $6,000. Party starts at 7 p.m. sharp. Listen to Styles FM for ticket outlets or call 876-518-2399. Fan Fusion Party. Drunken Masquerade. Dress tropically elegant. Fan Fusion is not just a party. It's an experience.
Must be 18 years and older to enter. ID required. Drink responsibly.
It's Wow Factor Tuesdays with Chungy and Shelly. Every Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's entertainment and interaction at its best. With features like the Share to Care segment, the Uprising 10 Countdown, and the ever-controversial Love Break. Yes, it's the Wow Factor. Your Tuesday mornings will never be the same again.
Planning a party, club night out, stage show, a gospel concert, or even a business sales event? Let Styles FM be a part of your promoting tool. Take advantage of our low-price promotion packages with commercials, interviews, giveaways, reviews, and much more. We have special offers when you mix and match and bundle your options. Contact us at 876-286-9216 or 439-5160. Styles FM for the most effective way to exploit your marketing dollar.
Did you know that dengue, chikungunya, and Zika are transmitted by mosquitoes? This is why it is so important to get rid of tires, bottles, and other containers with stagnant water and keep barrels covered. Eliminating stagnant water is everyone's responsibility. Protect yourself and your family. A message from the USAID, PSI Caribbean, CARFA, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
For complete auto repairs and services, come to Akon Auto Technology, located at 33 Bumble Crescent, Port Antonio, Jamaica. We offer specialist services in wheel alignment and wheel balancing, brake drum and disc rotary servicing, state-of-the-art ultrasonic cleaning and testing of your fuel injectors. We also stock an assorted range of auto service parts, tires, and motorcraft batteries. If we don't have it, we will source it for you. Call us at 876-715-5205 or email AkonAutoTech16@gmail.com. Akon Auto Technology, beyond the typical auto mechanic shop.
Clifford Guest House, sponsor of Metamorphosis on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight with Dr. Iman Blak. Located at 15 Queen Street, Port Antonio, that's Ditchfield Hill, they offer accommodations for up to 1 month. Call them at 285-0610 for more information.
Eternity is a temptation of time. To dance is to be master of time. His pleasure is to control mind. Universal remedy, cure for you and cure for me. Universal interesting. Souvenirs and golden rings. His life is an exhibition to that. With all those arrows and knives and hatchets, machetes hanging there on the wall. Talking gongs and instruments used for divination. Silent statue, chiseling strokes of charity. Dr. Street is the one you got to meet. Whoa. Dr. Street is the one you got to meet. Oh yeah, yeah. Dr. Street is the one you got to meet. Whoa. Dr. Street is the one you got to meet. Whoa. Time is settled down by ruins. Rusty rats and river drought. His world is full of fetish forest. Dusty museum of life. Shadows of jawbone sticking to a lazy silver spoon. Hazy brown eyes.
Yeah, Metamorphosis. We're into the final 25 minutes. Iman and Cassidy in the studio. And the people are communicating through the various devices. WhatsApp, they call this. So this brethren is saying, well, the person, because I don't know, is a he or she. The person saying that mental slavery is in the general population. And the general population of the world thinks slavery has been abolished, which is really, really interesting. There are people who think that slavery has been abolished. Him say it has not, because it has only taken on a new face. Well, I wanted to share with them what I think has been one of the greatest deceptions that reached black people in these modern times. That was when the white forces decided that they didn't want Nelson Mandela to die in prison because of the upheaval it will cause globally and in South Africa. So them orchestrated to let him out, to save their own ass. They let him out. And they bring down the Berlin Wall in a revolution inspired by Washington and London and the Vatican. Because there was what they call an Orange Revolution. That is what brought down the Soviet Union and brought an end to the socialist states. Some people are not even conscious of that. It was a revolution right through Eastern Europe. And just fueled by Washington, London, and the Vatican. So now we see Nelson Mandela being released in 1989-90 thereabouts. And the entire planet Earth, all of the white medias and the blacks who were part of this thing, began to preach an argument that apartheid had ended. Now, I as an individual found it totally absorbing. How could the media conspire to convince so many black people that apartheid ended because Nelson Mandela walked out? It's the highest piece of trickery I've ever seen. And what they do is bring an end to the revolutionary energies that we're building up. And release the man, and they just release those energies, and then guess what happened? All the black people in the world start celebrate apartheid done. Look in America today and tell me, say apartheid is over. Has it moved from South America? Or has it decided to rear its head in a space that the government of America now will support? Because apartheid is no different from what Donald Trump is administrating in America. America will not use that word. I on the outside can tell you that apartheid is alive and well in the USA under the Trump administration. Metamorphosis.
In a fever song, only them can sing this world.
We stay in we stay in It's a ghetto people song, only them can sing.
So we got to ask the Garveyites, when will the Garveyites move beyond quoting Marcus? When will Rastafari move beyond quoting Marley and His Majesty? When will Christians ever get beyond quoting King James and his Bible? We have all become experts at quoting, but expert quoters never moved a mountain. They actually become stumbling blocks instead of stepping stones. We have to move away from this quoting and quoting. Christians quoting the Bible, Rastaman them quote His Majesty, and them quote Garvey, and the Garveyites quote Garvey, and we quote Marley, and we have a quoting going on, but no action to transform and to make a change. The change must be made, and it begins when we begin to think revolutionary. Revolution is the change. There are those who think that knowledge is power. Yeah, we hear those phrases, knowledge is power. I am saying knowledge is not power. Knowledge is empowering. Knowledge is empowering. Knowledge is not power. What is power? I am saying power is the ability to overcome resistance without momentum. Yeah, work that out. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is empowering. Because if you're not acting, it's just something in your head. So how do you transform knowledge into an action? Then we begin to talk about power. What is power? Garvey told us that black people must get power in every form. Physical, mental, spiritual, economic, political, military. You name it, I and I must begin to aspire for those types of power. But once you begin to have power, you can begin to define your own destiny and begin to be the captain of your own ship. And allow the capitalists them to do their own work. Yeah, make them begin to sweat. Because I and I would have uncovered the power of self-reliance and ownership of property and land and industry, the way Garvey tried to outline. That we can hold airlines. Why we can't put together and set up an airline between here and an African country? What is it we're waiting on? The same government to do that? The same planter class? You saw how long them take with the ganja and now them market it and harness it. And it's for them thing now. Watch it, you know. These forces are never ever in favor of the black majority. It's always about them own little self. And there's a little bit of them too. Hiding in the majority under this thing about out of many one. It's a little bit of them. But them there a long time. I mean like from the 1700s. Some Jews there in Jamaica from long time, 1800s, what we don't even know. But look at the Daily Gleaner. And look at the owner. Look at the Marzukas and all those families who set up the Gleaner from 1834. So from them time, even before black people can even read English and understand media, them have them thing in place. Where is the black media? Yeah, where is the information that leading black people to them own blackness? Everybody upon Facebook, where is the black book? Metamorphosis. Commercial moment. So for people who are interested in reading a copy of The Black Tridentity, which is Me, I and the Self by yours truly, the number to call for people who are overseas is 718-637-4829. Yeah, just ask for Vava Blue. 718-637-4829. It's $10 US. And if you're not overseas and you're in Jamaica now and you want the older version of this text, you just come to Styles FM, 4 Boundbrook Avenue in Port Antonio. Because the liberation comes through the knowledge of the self. And not just the self now, critically knowledge of the I. Because that is not spoken about anywhere. Them tell you, say, yeah, man, you have to build up yourself and get self-esteem and get some, but they don't tell you how to develop the I. And the powers of the I, like the intellect and the imagination, the intuition, all of the I forces is what we need to bring out to make this transformation. Because there are some people who, center them consciousness is them me. Some people center of consciousness is themselves. and himself know is what is manufactured by society. So it rises and falls according to what people think. But the I is a foundation. The I is intangible, the I is eternal. The I has a link to the historical genetic past. So we're saying we have to upgrade the I positively. Now the virgin here who had spoke about mental slavery and the fact that we're still in mental slavery. But even that is something that needs to be understood. What does it mean to be a slave mentally? It means you're following habits, you're following things that have been programmed, that have been pre-programmed, and the ultimate description of a mental slave is a person that does not think. They respond out of like cliches. You ask a man what him think, him just give a cliche. And you ask him what him think, him say that, say that. And you ask him what him think, him say that, say that. But he does not express thoughts because he don't think. So the revolution must begin with those who are not thinking, moving into the thinking mode. Yeah, we will begin to recognize that that is the greatest force. The greatest force that man have right now is the power of his brain. And we and I think that our greatest strength rests in our hands and our feet. Because that's what is required to do labor. Manual labor, hand and foot. But you see the intellect that produced the mathematics that created the pyramids and the Sphinx, all of we have it. All of we have it. No matter about how some people can't do maths, and everybody have the ability to do the basics. And as black people, we are gifted from genetics. So we have to just upgrade yourself consciously. And know that revolution must become a part of our dictionary, of our vocabulary. And we want to revolt and change against the principles and forces, them call them powers and principalities, that hold in I and I in economic slavery. Economic slavery. And we have to break out of economic slavery by having our own concept of self-reliance. So we need Garvey, philosophy and opinions. And we have to compare all the while whose philosophy is more important to our liberation. Is it Marcus' philosophy or is it the philosophy of Jesus? Because the philosophy of Marcus Garvey speaks about self-reliance. Jesus don't talk about self-reliance, he talk about service. Marcus Garvey said, up ye mighty race. Jesus never mentioned nothing about no race, like him not have no race. Marcus Garvey outlined a program to transform chattel people into kings and queens again. We don't see nothing like that from Jesus. All them things Jesus said that we must try and get into his kingdom. Well, Jesus' kingdom is not Africa. And it's Africa we want to claim as our kingdom. We want to go to Jesus' kingdom, make them go on. But the Chinaman going into Africa, the Europeans are returning because that is the kingdom. It is the wealthiest planet, part of the planet, that piece of we call Africa. So we have to claim that as our kingdom. Positively.
Sitting here watching
They tell us that good will conquer evil. Long time I hear that. Long time I hear that. Well, you know, good will always overcome evil. You know what I come to conclude? That is a nonsense statement. Because you will always be the powerful over the powerless. Not the good overcoming the evil, but the powerful ruling over the powerless. And if you're powerful, you can be good or evil. The fact is, you have the power. So good will never overcome evil just by itself. The good will have to become powerful. And a lot of people who are good are afraid to even entertain the idea of being powerful. But trust me, in this reasoning, I don't even like the word, the trust me talk. I don't even use them thing there. But it is evident to me that it's a long dream to be sleeping into with the expectation that good will overcome evil. We have to wake up to that reality that is not so. What will overcome evil is when good secures power. Because the world is not run by good and evil. The world is run on the power versus the powerless. And the longer we remain powerless, is the more we can keep that back and forth talking about, well, good will overcome evil while we suffer. Yeah, we have to bring the suffering to a close by changing our mentality in a revolutionary way and realizing it's power we need. Economic, military, educational, scientific, power. And unafraid to claim that. Yeah.
Evil on my left, I'll stand up and fly. Oh yeah now, Sadamasagana, let God be praised in a positive way. Sadamasagana, let God be praised in a positive way. I've got to pray to Jah to have some mercy. Me safe and guide me to travel on my way. Temptation is so strong, but I must fight it. I'll stand up and fight. Fight for my oh yeah now, Sadamasagana, let God be praised in a positive way. Sadamasagana, let God be praised.
Hail up Pablo, Man Griffiths. Hail up Sammy from up Zilla Bar. Hail up Mystic. Me picking in. Hail up Icon out there. Me picking in. And give thanks to all those who have been listening overseas and on the land. Hail the people in this immediate community, Lighthouse and Bombroke and Springbank. Hail up to Valerie, up in the top of Springbank. And we must continue our convo in a time to come. Port Antonio proper, Thanks for listening. We know that there are people who are listening and don't text and don't call, but them ears tune in right straight to the marketplace, right up to free school, right in the back of the market, people around there. And out into the town, out into Central and Prospect and over into Anchovy and straight through to Hector's River. And we can't stop there now because St. Thomas has become an addiction. And so we hit up St. Thomas Technical. I want you to my driver, brethren. Fine. Yeah, me I hear you tonight. And me I hear jacket. Them man that drive bus and in St. Thomas and know things and know how to keep people safe on the road. And of course we can't leave out Western Portland. We can't leave out Anata Bay. We can't leave out St. Mary. We can't leave out nowhere. Because Styles FM is everywhere. Oh, that sound. That sound like a good commercial. Yeah, because of the shaking made. I'm tell you which direction I'm shaking made. Yeah, so as usual, it's always a pleasure to exchange and share and say and things. And we're looking into the capitalism struggle and the structure and how do we free ourselves from that type of ism? How do we liberate our economic conditions? How do we change the thought processes that we begin to attract capital? That we begin to master the art of investing capital and stop afraid of money. And allow the rich man and him talk about him. You can't get into the heaven. The heaven we want to get into is not off this ground. The heaven is right here. Good health services, proper roads, good housing, yeah, good nice woman, good family relations. Hey, brother, that is heaven. Take it from Iman. That is heaven. And I want to share a little writing I was reading on the social media. It says, before you speak, let your words pass through these 3 gates. Before you utter a word, make sure your words pass through these 3 gates. The first gate asks a question, is it true? The second gate asks a question, is it necessary? And the third gate must answer the question, is it kind? And if we begin to run our thoughts through these 3 gates, number 1, is it true? If it's not true, you don't carry it, you just drop it. Is it necessary? If it's not necessary to say it, don't say it. Is it kind? If it's unkind, don't say it. Let us be more warm-hearted and kind to each other. Yeah, to yourself first, be kind, and to your immediate surroundings, the people. Yeah, make a build back a trust. Mounts I and I, so we can begin to run our partners again and begin to build up our money through our banking system. Yeah, so peace unto the item. Iman Blak out.